With the 13th pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
Portland has 3 timeouts left. The Lakers have 2. Bryant to shot!
Kobe Bryant, 28 for 46 from the field. This would be 18 for 20 from the line and an 81-point game.
Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in! He banks in the three!
Rondo spins, dribbles, puts up the three, won't go. Rebound to Sol, kicks it out to Odom. Odom throws it ahead. The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles. The LA Lakers, the 2010 NBA champions.
Very at peace with it, and I'm very thankful for the 20 years that I've had, and ready to go.
A 60-point game for Kobe Bryant.
What can I say? Mamba out.
And welcome to another episode of Dos and a Half Cincos. This is episode number 24. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different we know that we are your favorite movie podcast, but with current events and recent tragedy that happened on Sunday, we're going to be stepping away from our usual programming and talking about the movie of the week, which would have been The Gentleman, and we're going to talk about the passing of a great man and a icon who has been a huge pillar for Los Angeles. As always, I am your host, David.
I'm Stuart.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Lety.
And we have a special guest on this one. So Lety, thank you for joining us on this episode, the special 24th episode of Dos and a Half Cincos.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we're totally not lying. This is actually the 24th episode.
Yeah.
It is coincidental, but I think it's also fitting. We could have easily just gone straight into our normal programming and talking about an episode of Street Sharks and or movie of the week and go through the box office rundown. But
and honestly,
I think we'd be remiss.
I really wish we could. I really wish we were doing that instead. But
I think we wanted to. We all did.
I wish
decided to do something.
I wish the
different.
circumstances didn't dictate this. Not dictate, but didn't fall like this. Because now it only feels right to do it this way.
Because I think for all of us, since we all grew up in Southern California, pretty easily just were able to relate to, Kobe as somebody who helped us all grow up to an extent. He represented so much more than just Los Angeles Lakers basketball, Mamba mentality, all that stuff, and so. Just for those who may eventually stumble upon this episode at some point in the future, on Sunday, January 26th, at I'm not a newscaster or reporter, so the details are not really that super important, but a helicopter that was carrying Kobe and his daughter Gianna and 7 others, including the pilot themselves, traveled through a foggy weather and tried to go over the Calabasas mountains, and unfortunately didn't make it and crashed, and everybody on board was unfortunately killed, which has started this snowball effect of this fallout of all of this just love and adoration and just an outpouring for what he's meant to each person. And I know personally for me, Kobe meant a lot to me, growing up watching all the championships, And so, we dedicate this special episode, this 24th episode, to Kobe, the 7 passengers on board, and his daughter Gianna. So we'll start off a little bit. I feel like I've done a lot of talking, so we'll go ahead and we'll just jump straight into it. We do have a new guest on the podcast, so Lety, we wanted to start off with you. What was your favorite like Kobe moment? What did Kobe mean to you?
Damn, man, that's tough. I still can't believe that this is real. Like, I keep hoping that I'll go on Reddit or Twitter or something and see a headline that says like, "Oh, JK guys, Kobe's all right," because like he really felt like he was larger than life almost. Like I couldn't even picture him being an old man, like a truly old man. So to imagine that he's gone forever is like pretty hard. I think one of my favorite like Kobe moments is from one of the All-Star games when I don't know if you guys have seen it, but he dunked on LeBron, and LeBron tried to go up for the dunk, and Kobe was like, "Nah, dog." And then as they both like jogged back, getting back after the basket, like there was a little bit of like a butt slap and like a high five.
That was the one he won his last All-Star MVP.
Yeah.
I remember that one. That was a good moment. Because I remember back within. It's only been recent that I've become a LeBron fan. Before I was against LeBron. I thought he was like the guy who was gonna. Everyone was trying to like say, "Oh, he's better than Kobe because X, Y, and Z reasons." So, and I wasn't hearing that. So when he did that during the All-Star game, I was very happy.
Yeah, that memory has like totally switched has changed like the way that I feel about it, because when I first witnessed it, I was like, see, this is why Kobe's still better than LeBron. But then as time went on, I realized that, these guys are not just basketball players, they're people and they're friends with each other. And I think that was, that really helped me understand there's people behind these personas, which of course makes the tragedy even like harder to understand.
Yeah, I think I could probably easily speak for everybody, is that was one of those things that we never really got a chance to see. That Nike had both the athletes on their payroll. Both of them have that $1 billion like long-term contract that will never like be ceased. Nike's going to hold on to it and stuff like that. And they, throughout the decade, we've always been teased with this idea that it's LeBron versus Kobe, but we never got to see them in the finals together. Right. And I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity that we would love to have been able to see. I think at the end of the day, trying to identify who's the greatest player of all time is going to be difficult. These guys are definitely in the same group altogether, right? I mean, they're all great in their own rights. Yeah, and so that it's difficult, especially now that he's a Laker, for us to be able to kind of be like, nah, man, you're not. This is still Kobe's town, and I think that's still going to be the case.
Yeah, it still is. But that doesn't mean that LeBron won't have his place here, especially if he wins a ring. Like if he wins a ring, especially if he wins it this year. Which, in my opinion, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, you got to get it done. Like, this year. Like, you got to do it for Kobe. So, like, I know it's, like, putting a lot of pressure on him, but I feel like that would be, like, the ultimate, like, if we never win another ring, if we don't win another ring for the next 20 years, this, like, in exchange for winning it this year, then I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So, and then what about you, Stu? What did Kobe mean to you, and like, what was like a standout moment for you that's how you knew?
Kobe, it was weird. Obviously, most of the people you see on social media, regular people, you, me, Ben, Lety, whoever, none of us really, none of us knew him personally, which, it's natural because, he's one person and there's millions of people, but everyone seems to have had the same kind of reaction to his passing. And for me, like, he was almost like, he's one of those things where he was like a link to just like my childhood and growing up. And so like, it's hard to see that someone who I expected to like, kind of like how you see like Bill Russell and Kareem just like growing old, and you know, they'll be on the sidelines, they'll always kind of be there. It's hard for me to wrap my head around that's not going to be the case. And I think one of my favorite moments that I always like, one of the ones I've probably rewatched the most, was the 2010 Western Conference Finals, Game 6 against the Suns. That was the one where I think I remember pretty clearly. Like, it was Game 6, and you know, they're in Phoenix, and it was like really tight game. And whenever Kobe went to the bench, like the Suns kept like coming back, and they had all the momentum. And it was in the fourth quarter, I think, when Kobe he comes back in, and he just starts hitting all these insane fadeaway jumpers with defense all over him. And he just hits like two, I think it was like 2 or 3 shots like that. And the last one, he hits it fading away from, I think, like Grant Hill and maybe one other defender. And when he drains it, he goes to Alvin Gentry, who's standing right there, who's the head coach of the Phoenix Suns at the time, and he gives him a little tap on his butt. And I think that was my favorite Kobe moment.
I think we all have like these moments where we get to see, like what Lety was saying, is like this like larger than life. Like, this is almost still unbelievable. The moment the news broke on Sunday, I was just so shocked, especially since it came from TMZ. I know everybody had the same like guttural feeling, which was just like, this can't be real. This is fake. Like, it's gonna be fine. Like, I guarantee you in like 2 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour, we're gonna get a tweet from Kobe saying it's just, you know, I don't know where this is coming from, but it's not real.
Right. Yeah, I dismissed it immediately until I started seeing the other news sources.
What about you, Ben?
Well, this one's a little harder for me because, well, you guys know me. I didn't grow up watching basketball. I didn't play basketball when I was a kid. Man, I got into this like super recently, and it was all because of Lety, you know?
I know. He's a recent Laker fan. But he bleeds purple now.
Thank you, Lety.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lety. You did what we couldn't.
Yeah. Like, we could get him to eat ramen as much as he wanted, but just couldn't get him to don the purple and gold.
Like, when I was a kid, I was actually on the middle school basketball team, varsity basketball team, and I didn't know the rules. Like, I like going on recess.
We just need you to fill the spot.
Yeah.
Were you fresh off the boat also?
Yeah, I was also fresh off the boat. Yeah. Like, I couldn't tell you, like, you know, what the hell traveling was, what charge was. I couldn't tell you, like, you know, is it bad to foul someone? I don't even know what a foul is. You know, I played one game in my varsity game, and I think I've, like, just ran up and, like, tried to elbow everyone.
Jungle ball.
And let me tell you, I never watched a professional NBA game, like, when I was a kid, or, you know, before college, essentially. Even if someone else was watching on the couch, I'd be, you know, like, ah, man, I don't want to watch that, so I'll go somewhere else. However, I knew the name Kobe Bryant. Like, everyone knew who Kobe was. Like, even if, you know, you're not even into sports, like, someone has mentioned the name Kobe Bryant, and instantly you probably know. Like, you're walking down the hall, you make a shot into the trash can, Kobe, you know? Like, it's Kobe Bryant. He was almost like a living legend, I would say. You know, he was like the epitome of athleticism, of perfection in the basketball world. It was just this name that you instantly thought of, you know, basketball when you said it. So it's not just an athlete. It's not just a person. He was this this guy who encapsulated all these ideals, all these hopes, these dreams about basketball. You know, he helped romanticize the idea of loving a sport, I think. I can't think of another athlete who really has done that for the game, or another person who's done that for, you know, their hobby. And for someone to take that and elevate it to this whole new level, you know, and for us to lose him like this, it really hurts. Like, I never grew up watching him. You know, I don't have the same kind of connection you do, but man, it was really weird hearing that news and still feeling something, you know, feeling shook, feeling like, you know, we really lost something.
I think that's one of the most amazing things about him as a person is just, I mean, unfortunately, this happened, but it shows how far his reach was, whether you like basketball or not. Just to have this person who's kind of always been there, and like you said, like, and a lot of people said, you would never think, like, you can't, nope, nothing can kill Kobe. Kobe can't die. Like, so to have this happen, you just see how shook it, how it just kind of shook everyone to their core. Probably, I would say, like, this is probably the most I've ever been just affected by something like this, where, like, when Michael Jackson died, like, I like Michael Jackson, but it did not faze me to the degree that I am being affected now.
Yeah, I think Ben, even though at the time, you know, through all of the his entire basketball career, you may not have been like a diehard fan, but I think this just kind of like what Stu was saying, it like speaks to just how far his reach is and how everybody understood what Kobe meant, what Mamba mentality meant, right? It's this continuous pursuit of perfection, and this just like the way he played basketball just was like this unique blend that I feel like, yeah, everybody wanted to be like Mike, and then, you know, our generation was everybody wanted to be like Kobe, and then the newer generation wanted to be more like LeBron. But I feel like because that the entire story, like, nothing summed up Kobe on its own except for just the name Kobe, right? Everybody knows exactly what it means, but it doesn't. You can't just like synonymously be like, oh, he was a great scorer, right? But it was just the way he played the game was with such like tenacity, with ferocity, but it was still graceful, and he took that to every part of his life. Like, he was always telling everybody, like, literally, always give 110%. And then I'm sure there was somebody who would be like, oh, it's not possible to actually give 110%. And he'd be like, no, if you watch me play, you watch me practice, you watch me live my life, you know, watch me coach my girls to be able to be a father, to be a husband, to be a basketball player, to be a teammate, to be a brother, whatever it was, it would just, he did it to 110%. Even it's not, you know, technically possible, but it just, that's the way it was. And it's still shocking to be able to be talking about it like this. For me, a lot of people, I'm sure if you ask them, oh, what's your favorite moment, they probably say championships, right? But I feel like, Stu, your memory probably echoes a lot of what one of my favorite memories was actually the night before. I think I'm trying to place it correctly. No, 2 nights before, I believe. Before his 81-point game, he was like up against Sacramento. And because that, for some reason, like that season, that 2006 season, I feel like it'd be kind of like everybody's like, oh, if it wasn't for the 81-point game, they didn't make the playoffs that year or whatever, it's not like that big of a deal. I think, like, for me, just knowing that he didn't give up, period, right? That could have been a year where he could have literally just said, you know what, this is it. I'm done this year. You know, I could, I'm sure, you know, regular rest days or, you know, game management, you know, player management wasn't a thing, but I'm sure if it could have been a thing back then, I'm sure there would have been a lot of pressure for Kobe to sit out every other game, you know, no back-to-backs or anything like that. But I guarantee you he wouldn't have let it. He'd be like, no, you know, I'm here because I love the game of basketball. You know, the fans are here to come see me, to make sure that I can give them a show, but I want them to know that every single night I put on a pair of basketball shoes or basketball sneakers and they put a ball in my hand, I'm going to give it 100%. And so that night, 2 nights before that 81-point game, they were up by a lot by the end of the third quarter. And I remember everybody just kept fighting to let him continue to keep playing, so that way he can keep scoring more points. That's a memory that sticks out to me more, because they would show pictures of him sitting on the sidelines, agonizing, just going, why am I being benched at this point? Right? I should be able to go out there and play all 40, let me play all 48 minutes, even though I don't think he's ever had to really play all 48 minutes, right? I mean, 42 is pretty dang close already, but I think...
Yeah, I think only in overtime games.
Yeah. So, I mean, he just pushed himself to the point where it just like, I think one of my favorite stories is just hearing about all the other stories that a lot of other players that have played with him were like, right? I think we were all waiting for certain things. I mean, today I think it makes sense that we're talking about it today, because today was the first time Vanessa has talked about it, right? About the loss and feeling all of the support and love that everybody has felt, and how, Kobe's entire family has touched all of our families, how much it's pinging us, and we can't even imagine how it feels like for them.
Yeah.
But the reason why it brings it up is just like, seeing them pan back to the bench and knowing that they're up by 18, 22 points, I think at the point, and then you just see Kobe just kind of just has like the towel over his head, and you're just like, dude, he wants to play. He just wants to play.
Right.
And for me, that summed up to me what Kobe meant. And then 2 nights later, they were just like, all right, fine. I know he's been racking up like a ton of games. Like, what was it? I think I pulled up something. It was like on the 19th was the game I was talking about. It's against Sacramento. And then a couple days before that was against the Clippers on the 7th. He scored 50. It was easy for that year to just kind of be like, whatever, just let him run a show or whatever. But he still didn't do that anyways. And so it just, that was my favorite memory, is even though that's not a big like scoring game or like some historic thing happened,
right?
That to me just showed me that like literally he never took a night off. And so if I want to live Mamba mentality, I want to live just like Kobe, you can't take a night off. You just got to always be willing to take that next shot, knowing, assuming that it's going to go in. In that same spirit, I think based on what Ben was talking about, I wanted to put together this episode mostly just around the Academy Award-winning short, Dear Basketball, which was around the last season that Kobe played in his 20th season. He wrote a poem that was turned into a short animated film. So I guess we'll go ahead and we'll start with Stu. If you're okay with it, I'd like to start with you. What are your thoughts on Dear Basketball?
Well, I think fortunately, at least for me, right now, I watched it a couple times before we started recording when I got home, and luckily I didn't have the emotional breakdown I was anticipating of having. I was able to keep it pretty well together watching it, but I remember when I first watched it, it was almost like I could see this movie or this short, and it's only 4 minutes long. I almost wish Disney or someone in Disney, Pixar, whoever, it almost seems like you could turn this into a full feature film. I would totally watch it. Not just because it's Kobe, but just because it seemed like watching the animation of young Kobe in his room that just seemed very like Disney Pixar-esque. Like I could totally envision a movie in that style, where it's like kind of showing him as a kid, and whether it focused on him being a kid or not, or maybe growing up into who he was, doesn't matter. But it was, I know we were talking about like before on the previous episodes where like I don't really get the Oscars. They don't seem to make any sense, like who wins and all that stuff. And I feel like in this case, it made sense for it to win the Oscar. And I don't know if it's, I don't know, and I don't really care, but if it was based on its merits alone, or if just because it's close tied to reality, that it won. But I think, I think it was great that it won, and, Kobe got an Oscar for it.
Ben, did you have a chance to review it?
Yeah, I actually did. So, funny that you mentioned about the Disney-like style, Stu. It actually was animated by a Disney animator. So that's where it did get its signature feel from. It was definitely something that looked beautiful from start to finish. A short 4 minutes, and the music also got to me too. It wasn't something that they just threw in. It was actually composed by John Williams. So there are a lot of forces at work for this very short film. But aside from the beautiful animation, the moving music, I think what really got to me the most, well, there's two things that got to me the most. It's Kobe's narration over it. Not only did he write this poem, this essay, like the way that he speaks about it just seems so genuine. It seems very emotional. He had these little quivers in his voice, especially when he's talking about how he couldn't give anything more at the end. His body was giving out. It really seemed like he's breaking down. That really got to me because that really did happen to him. He was a guy who gave it all and more, and until his body just couldn't take it anymore. And it was kind of sad to see the end of his career like that, but he was able to end on a really high note. And if we're talking about merits alone for it winning an Oscar, I think it definitely deserved it because this is, like I said, the way that Kobe romanticized the game. I think that this was an accurate depiction of what happened. It feels just so, like his story feels so cinematic, seems so perfect. Like the way that the story was told. It's crazy to think about it. I feel like someone could come along pretty soon and make a whole movie about this, about Kobe's life, and it's just perfect, from start to finish, the way he lived, the way he died, everything. So, yeah, Dear Basketball, I thought it was just really touching because of not only how it encapsulated all the work that went into it, but how it encapsulated the actual world and the actual story it was about. Both being so goddamn beautiful.
Lety, thoughts?
Well, the first time that I saw Dear Basketball, I teared up because, it was Kobe's farewell to his career, and as a big fan of the Lakers and a big fan of Kobe, I was sad that he was no longer going to play. And I watched it with Ben, just before we started recording, and I also teared up again. Even though I already knew the plot and the shots and the gist of the poem, and I had prepared myself because now, he bared his soul, his feelings. He put it out there, and like Ben said, it feels very genuine. One of my favorite things about the short is how they took inspiration from classic shots throughout his career. Some fadeaway jumps, some dunks. One of my favorite pictures of him when he's after winning the championship, he's holding the basketball and the crowd behind him is going nuts, and you can just see the joy in his body that made it to the film. It just when I first watched it, when it was originally released, it made me relive all the memories that I had of following him, watching the games, the ups and downs throughout his career. the same thing happened, but it was with a. It was like, you know, I'm happy that it happened, but I'm sad that you know, he's gone. So yeah, I really do. I like the short a lot. I was a little bit skeptical when I heard that Kobe Bryant was doing a movie. I was like, oh, but you know, he's very talented. And the movie, I thought it deserved the Oscar. I'm biased because I love Kobe, but it deserved it.
Right. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say otherwise. It's hard to pull that, to try to be objective about it. Like, so. What about you, David?
I think that's the reason why I'm not going to ask you what your guys' rating is for this, because I honestly don't care what you guys say. I'm going to say 10 no matter what.
I really want to give my rating.
24. Okay.
Oh wow.
It's 24 out of 8.
Stu, what is your rating?
My rating.
24 out of 10.
My rating is a 8 out of 8.
Wow.
It's a 24 out of 24. It's a 33 out of 33.
Goddamn.
And a 10 out of 10.
Damn. I understood half of those.
Well
Agreed.
said.
33, Ben, is his high school number from Lower Marion.
Okay, I didn't know
And
that
10
one.
is his Olympic number.
God
That's
damn.
right.
And obviously 8 and 24. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, Dear Basketball summarizes a kind of a little bit of what you guys were all talking about, but I remember there's this one quote that after he had retired, and kind of one of the motivations that he did was Kobe's always been a storyteller. And the fact that, you know, Ben, you were talking about the fact that it seemed like his entire life was kind of like almost like a storybook, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's that part where it's just kind of like you can't believe it, you know, that fairy tale start. And then there's this moment where everything kind of goes badly, and then you kind of get this feeling that this hero, you know, he's the hero, but for some reason everything's going absolutely wrong, right? He, you know, going through, you know, his first like 5 years in the league, you know, he gets onto a really decent Lakers team already, right? Shaq's there, and you have all these veterans around him, this young upstart guy who's got a lot of energy, wants to make a name for himself. Like, tell me which fairy tale doesn't have something like that? You know, tell me which Pixar movie doesn't have that? And to be able to see that, especially in the ability to be able to condense something that could easily, as Stu said, could have been a full-length feature film, easily. Right, from beginning, you know, having him start as a young boy shooting, you know, socks into a trash can, and then getting drafted by his, you know, the dream franchise he's always wanted to be a part of. Right? How many other stories have we seen that they end up on, you know, they end up on the Knicks, for example, and then they flame out. Right? This guy it was almost unbelievable that he ended up where he was supposed to be. It was almost like divine, right? He came to this team, he came to this city, even though he's not from here. He's from Philly. You know, being on the 76ers would have made a lot of sense too, but for some reason, I don't know if, you know, everybody who listens to this, you know, believes in God or anything like that, but I just feel like it's divine, right? He ended up here for a reason. To be able to show that, you know, this city, even though there's a lot of glitz and a glamour, that if you put your nose to the grindstone, yeah, Kobe was extremely talented. Don't let me, you know, say anything about that, but his talent was his work ethic. He always believed that he had to outwork every single person. If somebody took 1,000 shots every day, he would take 10,000 shots. Like, that's just this idea that, like, he had to build something, right? He started from the bottom, and then, you know, he ended up on top. And then even though he may have stayed slightly longer than his career probably should have, you know, but he stayed with the same team through ups, through the downs. And yes, he was visibly, you know, distraught when he left basketball, but he wanted to give us a last glimpse of what it felt like to be him. You know, yeah, it's only 4 minutes and 30 seconds long, but to kind of summarize it, to kind of see that entire film, for him to be able to work with the people that he worked with, knowing that, hey, if you're going to come work with me, you better be the best, because I'm only going to give you that. You know, that's to me what it meant to me. And, you know, the opportunity to be able to see him play was something I will never ever forget. And additionally, I think it was really funny was, you know, when back in 2006, that year where like kind of the Lakers were, you know, middling a little bit. My dad told me, David, you should be studying for the SATs instead of watching Kobe play basketball, because he's gonna still be there. It's a very Asian, you know, old,
right.
You know, wise, you know, father, Asian father would say.
Can you do it in character though?
My dad has a good English. That's the problem. Character.
Can you
do that? That would be misrepresenting my dad.
Can you do it in character of David Chen then?
David, Kobe will still be playing in a basketball when you exit the college. You should.
Dad, what do you mean playing in a basketball? He doesn't play in a basketball. God, you're so Asian.
But of course, my dad was like, David, you should be studying. You shouldn't be spending so much time, because he's going to still be playing basketball by the time you graduate college. And I was fortunate enough that was true. Right? I don't think anybody ever approached the game the same way that he did. Right? I'm sure he emulated a lot of stuff like Mike. But at the same time, it was Kobe. It's his own style. And that's the reason why I feel like we were stripped of something that really sad to see it go. But I think this is also kind of a reminder to us how fragile life is. Right? We got 4.5 minutes of this brilliance from him. Right? And for 20 years, we got 40 minutes of brilliance on the floor every single night. You could turn on the game. It could be the first game of the season, it could be the last game of the season. And if you didn't know exactly what part of the year it was, I guarantee you couldn't tell, because he gave you 100% of his effort from the beginning and at the very end of the season, even if the game meant nothing. And you know, he took that with him to doing this film and writing that book. I was really excited to see his daughter Gigi play in the NBA at some point, because I guarantee you that she was ready. She was going to be the first, because you could tell that she wanted it, and he wanted it for her. And he was going to do his damnedest, or everything he could in his power, to make sure she had the opportunity to be able to show that she is not just the daughter of Kobe Bryant, but she is, you know, Gianna Bryant. I mean, that, you know, that's who she is. She's Gianna. Right, I guarantee she would have been on a first name basis for everything. So for me, the film just kind of represents just what he's been talking about from the very beginning, which is that, you know, we're all storytellers. What's your story? We got a chance to see his story, and I think we would be all remiss if we didn't do the same thing. Right? You saw the passion when he was talking about it. You know, like Ben was saying, like the quiver in the voice when he's talking about he's talking about his love and his passion for this round orange ball, right, that goes in a hoop. And you know, it's just something, a legacy that he's left for us, that we should find what our passion is and pursue it the same way. That even if it requires for us to imagine that the last second shot's in our hands, you know, whatever we're doing, we need to do it to, you know, take life to the fullest and have a story to one day to be able to tell. You know, just like he did. It may not be as glorious, right? When I'm not going to win 5 championships doing anything, but, you know, we should have that same intention. That whatever we're doing should have the point of that we should be proud of a story that we are the main character or the protagonist that's in. And so for me, that's what this short meant, but it's just a broader vision of just what Kobe meant as a total. But it's just, that was just one gift that he left for us, and unfortunately that's it. But in his passing, I think it's also just, it's tragic. I don't think I'm gonna ever be able to understand it. I'm gonna be questioning it for forever, you know, why. But I think it, you know, tragedies like this also have a silver lining at the same time, is that it helps me put things in perspective and appreciate the things that I do have. Like, for example, you guys. I don't want to get too sentimental, but, being able to do this on a weekly basis with you, Stu, and Ben, and, Lety, of course, you're always welcome whenever you'd like to join. And then anybody else who's been a part of our podcast, our Christmas episode. And, I never want to ever be known as the person who took those things for granted. And, losing Kobe is a tragedy. I know everybody's hurt, and it's going to take a long time for us to get back. But, I really love you guys a lot. And this has been as much as we joke that we, we're in it to be able to make a bunch of money. Our opinion is for sale. But for me, the true joy is just being able to riff with you guys and to be able to hear your guys' voices and hear your opinions and just kind of grow like that. And, I know that as we grow older, kind of the same way with Kobe, right? We have families and stuff like that, and we don't get the opportunity to be able to get together as often as much as possible. But I like to think that this is our version of our story. That one day, when we have friends who have kids and they're like, oh, Uncle David, Uncle Stu, Uncle Ben, like, what did you guys do when you guys were, in your early 30s? Well, we recorded this really dumb podcast that...
Let me tell you a story about greatness.
That became the biggest movie podcast of all time.
I don't know if Ben should be an uncle.
Yeah.
It's like a curse. He's gonna get shot.
But I'm not afraid to say it, but just like, you guys mean a lot to me, and unfortunately sometimes it does. Unfortunately we lost him, but I don't want him to think that his loss was in vain, because I think it put a lot of things in perspective for a lot of people. And, sometimes editing these podcasts and listening to Ben crunching on chips all the time. And I'm sure Stu hates me because I did that in a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, I both hate your guts. I don't.
but for me, that's just the way I choose to, but I had the same reaction the rest of you, that everybody else did, right? First was shock, and then for some reason I never got out of it until probably the last couple of days or so. I probably cried only once, but I feel like that probably was, for me, just like crying once was just like, wow, that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
But just hearing everybody else's stories and how he touched everybody, it just at some point it broke me down, and I just still feel so numb right now, just like thinking about it.
Yeah, on the day that it happened, pretty much the rest of the day, I had all these plans to do all this stuff around the house, and once I found out it was real, I just laid on the couch and didn't move while I was watching I was kept flipping back and forth between ESPN and Spectrum and NBA TV, trying to just like hear someone like other than my own head. And I think after the first day was like when I was feeling it the most, when I was affected by it the most. Since then, I still have moments throughout the day where I'll catch myself like thinking about it, and then I have to stop myself, or else I can feel the tears welling up at work or wherever I am. And but I think one of the amazing things that I've noticed is that there will be times throughout the day where I don't even feel like he's gone until I see something like a graphic on like whatever I'm watching, some YouTube video. There'll be a graphic that will say 1978 to 2020. And that's when it hits me again that he's gone.
Yeah, but I feel like he's left such a legacy that, Stu, you're right. It never feels like he's really gone, because he's left a little bit of Mamba in every single one of us, right? And I think we were all just devastated. I mean, I think that was exactly what we were all waiting for. It's just that, oh, this is a hoax. This is not real. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is a little bit of a reminder, and I'm really glad that he was able to do that. I think one of the other disappointing things about it is that, we never got a LeBron and Kobe final. And additionally, we never got to see Kobe get an EGOT, right? I think the Grammy would have been really difficult because his rapping career wasn't as good as Shaq's, but I would have loved to see him pick up the pen and pad just one time to see if he could do a diss track that would win a Grammy, so that way he could EGOT. Right? I think he'd be the only one. Well, I don't know. Does
you have to get a Tony.
SB count?
Yeah.
Does it SB count? Does an
No.
SB count for an E?
I don't.
Okay, so he'd be EGOT, right? Because he got an SB. He would have gotten a Grammy, a Oscar, a Tony, you know, and a Golden Globe, right? I would have loved to see that happen. But unfortunately, we're not going to get that opportunity. So I'll leave it up to you guys to talk a couple of things before we go ahead and wrap this episode up.
I think the first time I actually saw who Kobe was when I was a kid was well,
NBA Jam.
No, I wasn't allowed to play that.
Well, and he also wasn't
Too
in it.
violent?
Well, you
No,
could say
it's 'cause
that.
of the-
You could say
Yeah,
that.
let's just go with that. I know the real reason, but let's just keep it there. Let's just keep it there.
Yeah, so
Too violent.
I really liked when I was a kid eating in the mornings some bread with some Nutella. All right, like every morning, that's what it was: bread, spread some
Wait,
Nutella.
you used to be able to do that?
Yes, all right. I was a happy, young, hopeful child. All right, I had the whole future ahead of me, and I didn't have any fucking allergies. Is that what you want to hear? So I was able to eat Nutella when I was a kid. And one day we got a refill, right? And there's just this guy with a basketball on the front of it for some odd reason, real big, just with this huge dumbass grin, gripping a basketball, and it's just Kobe's favorite. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Who the hell is Kobe Bryant? And I had to look it up, I had to ask my parents, like, who the hell is Kobe? And why the hell is this Kobe's favorite? And they're like, it's basketball, don't you know? I'm like, hell no, you never showed me basketball.
Yeah, did they slap you the moment that you asked who's Kobe Bryant?
No, because they didn't show me basketball or anything. They didn't even know. Well, I mean, they knew who Kobe was, but, they were going to show me a game or nothing.
They weren't going to tell you who he was.
Yeah. So, it was just really weird, like, I think, it was like Froby at the time.
Oh,
him,
the fro.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just him on the stupid front of Nutella. Kobe's favorite Nutella. I don't even know. Like, I'm guessing those Nutella bottles are like $1 bajillion now. But damn if that wasn't the best ad reel for Nutella ever.
Yeah, Kobe had good taste because Nutella's pretty damn good.
Yeah, even Ben knows.
Yeah, Ben, how is it?
And it's poison to him now.
It's to die for.
He'll still eat it out of on this episode.
This is for you, Kobe.
In remembrance. Yeah, do it for Kobe.
Do it for Kobe.
This is for you.
Lety, final thoughts?
Damn, man, I don't know. I'm still sad and I'm in shock. I haven't been able to go on. My two favorite subreddits are NBA and are Lakers because it still makes me very sad. But I'm glad that we had Kobe and that we were around to witness his grit and his dedication. And I'm really glad, or I guess happy, to see the amount of players that have come out and said, like, that Kobe was an influence on them. So I know that Kobe's legacy lives through them, and it kind of lives in all of us as we try to keep with the Mamba mentality lifestyle. Yeah. But overall, I'm still pretty sad.
Stu, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think I was thinking back to when I was a kid. I remember I didn't really know about, kind of almost like where Ben was. I didn't know that much about at least the NBA. I think I played basketball for fun, but I didn't really know anything about the NBA. And the only reason, I think my first connection to it was actually Shaq, because in my head as a kid, it was like unheard of for someone to be 7'1", and so like he was like he was my favorite player, even though I'd never even watched him play. But that's kind of where it got seeded for me. And I then the next memory I have was I think in the 2000 playoffs. I think it was the Western Conference Finals where they're playing the Blazers. I just remember being around with my family, and everyone's like getting so excited, and I was only like half aware of like why they're getting excited, but I wanted to be part of the group, so I was getting excited also. And I think that was when they did that famous shot of the alley oop to Shaq, Kobe to Shaq, to kind of ice the game almost. But that was just kind of like I still at the time I was still like didn't really know who Kobe was until later on, and then for a period of years after that I kind of stopped watching basketball. I don't know why, and I started up again when I actually went to college and moved in with Orville and Keith, and I know Orville was always talking about basketball and stuff, and I started watching it again. And that's when I was like, oh, yeah, like that's when I always know who Kobe was throughout that time, but that's when like I really started to get into it. And I don't know really where I'm going with this. I'm just kind of talking about some stuff I was thinking about. But I did want to say like one of the things I think that was really great about Kobe was, and we touched on it a little bit about his daughters and specifically Gigi, was that like it didn't seem like, and I don't think he wasn't forcing her into basketball. In fact, once he retired, it seemed like he wanted almost like nothing to do with basketball, like at least in the public eye. But then only once his daughter started showing interest in basketball and that she wanted to play, and she was talking about she wants to go to UConn and play basketball there, and then go into WNBA. Then that's when he starts like he didn't force it on her. Like, and then once she started expressing interest, then that's when you start seeing Kobe show up at games, and I think that was just a really great thing to see. And it's heartbreaking to think that he was dedicated to basketball for 20 years, and that covered most of their lives, most of his kids' lives, and so they only got 4 kind of solid, almost not even 4 years of like him just like always just being around as a dad. But it seemed like he was doing a really good job at it. So
yeah, I think I had a similar experience, not really watching too much basketball, playing a little bit in like middle school, elementary school, I was never a big kid. So like, playing basketball for me was a little bit tough. And so I was a little bit late to the game, but then my first introduction was like usually watching like Michael Jordan, but then he felt so distant. But then when Kobe came into the league, and they were all like saying, oh, Kobe's the next Michael. He was ours, right? He was our generation, and we grew up with him. And so, that's the reason why for me it's been so tough to see, even though, yeah, like Stu, you're right. I think that he had already reserved the thought that he was done with basketball, and then his daughter's like love for it just kind of like reinvigorated everything all over again. And he was like, well, if you want me to show you, I'll show you everything. And you can see them like sitting courtside, he's pointing out things, and she's like picking him up, and you can tell like that intensity is back, right? So
yeah, I think that the tickets that we got for when I forgot who was all there, but I know it was like Ben, Lety, me, Sean, Orville, I think, for the Hawks Lakers.
Oh yeah,
he
was there.
Probably, I know that's probably the best money I've ever spent on tickets. Well, other than the games that we actually got to see him play, before on the year that he retired, but like just because it was totally unexpected. I remember sitting there with Sean and we're like, is that Kobe? I'm not sure if that looks like Kobe, but I'm not sure. And then sure enough, they give him a moment to, he waves to the crowd. And I just remember like losing my mind that, I got to see Kobe again from a distance at least.
Okay, well, we don't want to let this one run too long, so I'll just go ahead and wrap it up. This has been quite a journey with you guys on just, talking about Kobe's career and also his contributions, not just to film or to basketball, but just, I think, life in general. Giving us a glimpse of what it means to have that Mamba mentality, right? Never taking a day for granted, always be willing to grind and work hard, especially when, the lights are off, right? And nobody else is watching. What are you truly like? What is your, what's going to drive you? And so, we hope with that, I'm hoping that we could, this is a, tribute to him and our Dos and a Half Cinco's way of saying thank you, Kobe, for the way that you've touched each one of us individually, and to encourage us to continue to keep living life to the fullest and going after our passions the way that you would. And so for that, I'm going to wrap this up. As always, I'm your host, David.
I'm Stuart.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Lety.
And once again, thank you so much, Lety, for joining us on this episode of Dos and a Half Cinco's, our special Kobe tribute episode. Next week, we'll catch you on another regular scheduled episode. We'll be talking about The Gentleman, and we'll be talking about our Street Shark episode. Until next time, guys, Mamba out.
Mamba out.
Mamba out.
Mamba out.